Bonjour, brought to you by Safaricom, a proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
So hello there and welcome to another edition of Bonjour, and you can see we're outside the Stade de France where it's been a very eventful evening in terms of Kenyan performances, Mr. Elias. Obviously most people are expecting perhaps fireworks in the men's 100 meters, but it seemed our dreams for reaching the final of the men's 100 meters at the Olympics died before it actually happened.
Yeah, disappointing that Ferdinand didn't make it to the final. Again, same thing happened in Tokyo. So I think it was a lot of nerves. You could see all the athletes were, quite tense all the way from, the heats, semi-final. It was anybody's race. And at the end of the day, the big man, Noah Lyles, by 500ths of a second. 500ths
of a second. I think it's a mouthful to say it.
Exactly.
Because when we were watching that race, you could feel like it was Keshan Thompson who had won it. But obviously it was a very tight one, given the caliber of athletes who were in that final. But I think for Kenyans, the disappointment of Omanyala once again falling short at a major championship.
Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely gutted. He didn't speak to us. We haven't been able to speak to him, but it's understandable. I mean, he was disappointed. A big field, two Africans making it to the final, Akani Simbine and the Chile Tobago. Simbine finishing fourth, which is quite impressive for an old man like him. I mean, disappointment for Ferdinand. But again, that's the 100 meters final in the Olympics. Anything can happen. It happened in the women's race. Nobody knew that Julian Alfred would win it. So yeah, it adds up to the excitement of the Olympic Games.
Definitely living up to the hype. And I think also in terms of the men's 100 meters, just for people to understand like the kind of storyline that has been there, the build up to this Olympics. This is one of those storylines that has actually come to fruition because the focus, the attention, there's even a show on Netflix that is focusing around the sprinters, largely focused on the Americans, and Noah Lyles lived up to the hype.
Yeah, Noah Lyles lived up, but it's what is sort of bitter for the Kenyans is the fact that Lyles ran 9.79 personal best tonight, and Ferdinand has run 9.77. So Ferdinand is actually faster than Lyles on paper, but he just didn't turn up for the final. So it's but it adds up to the excitement, like you're saying. The Netflix movie Sprint, which premiered last month, actually helps to raise the profile of track and field.
Right, and an interesting statistic is the fact that Ferdinand Omanyala clocked the same time he had in the heats is the same time that he clocked in the final. So there wasn't some level of improvement per se.
I think there was too much tension. You could look at the body language when he was being introduced. I had a close look and I could see a bit of sort of a laid-back Ferdinand. He was not his usual self. So, the nerves were playing and the stadium was full, a lot of tension. And I like what World Athletics and the IOC did. The build-up to the final. They actually delayed it, building up the music they were playing. It's like,
those light
it's
things.
like a boxing match in,
the
lighting, presentation. Just like a boxing match in Las Vegas at the Grand MGM Grand. That really builds the hype around the race, and it was amazing.
Indeed. Now, let's turn the clock back a bit. Kenyans were in a final, and that was the 10,000 meters, Elias. And just thinking about that final, Joshua Cheptegei, there's a way the Ethiopians played into his hands perfectly, because when we watched that race, you could feel the sense that the Ethiopians had a strategy. They were very intentional in how they were running. But Joshua Cheptegei was just biding his time. He was just watching them keenly and waiting to pounce.
Yeah, and he did it perfectly, just at the right time. And he did say, we spoke to him after, and he said he was, watching the game and then knowing when to attack. With the advantage of modern technology, with the big screens, you can look all over what's happening around you. And like you say, the Ethiopians, speaking to Solomon Barega, he said that they had a game plan, to push the pace. Barega, Berihu and Yomif Kejelcha, which they did very well. But then they like you say, they played into, Cheptegei's hands. He's very experienced. He's won these titles before, all the way from 2014 as a junior. And then he said, hey, I think I've had enough now. It's time to move on to the marathon, onto the road. So a very good way for Uganda and for Cheptegei to end a brilliant 10 careers on the track.
Oh my God, it feels really good. We were actually, where we were standing, it was just us in the yellow shirts. So when the Ugandan team came on, it was interesting to see that everybody now was actually, they got to know Uganda at that time. So it feels really good, yeah? It feels really, really good, yes. they probably thought that he was going to lag behind or stay behind, but then he just sort of, pulled the move at the end, like on the last laps. Then he just sort of, he did his thing essentially.
It feels so amazing, because when I've lost my voice, I had to make it for my country, Cheptegei made us proud. Indeed, we are very proud of him, and he raised the flag so high.
Furthermore, he has broken an Olympic record, so that even makes it better. And to his career, he has won all other golds. It was only this one.
The fact that my country is on the world stage, getting a medal, I'm lost for words, but I feel amazing.
Well, it was exciting. We were on tenterhooks. We are so happy that we not only have the Olympic gold medal, but also a new Olympic record. The pace was really high. We saw that our Ethiopian brothers were keeping the pace super high up there. But we were very happy that the result was super positive for us. And we're happy. It was a super lovely finish.
Well, Elias, Kenya still has another chance to at least get their footing on the medal table, the 800 meters women's final, but it will only be a solo effort per se, because I was expecting Lilian Odira to join Mary Mora, I was expecting Vivian as well to join her, but it felt like they didn't step up to the plate as expected.
Yeah, a bit of a disappointment. They didn't make it. They've been training together. Mora again told us she felt a bit disappointed because, they were like sisters training and come together in Kenya, coming here and looking forward to having 3 of them in the final. But, for Mora, it's not the first time that she's alone in the final. She is psyched up, and the fact that also there are, a couple of other Africans. We have Dugoma, we have Prudence from South Africa. So there's still some African touch.
And Keely Hodgkinson as well.
Keely is the biggest threat, in my opinion.
Now, one athlete who feels a lot of, one would say the level of pressure is Faith Kipyegon. It's the women's 5,000 meters. She's competing in the Olympics for the first time in the 5,000 meters. And you can imagine given what we witnessed in the semis, some would say, or rather the qualifying round, some would say that was the final before the final, because it was packed with the top, the who is who. Sege was there, Sifan Hassan was there.
Yeah, and it's a lot of storylines in the same race. If we thought the 10,000 meters for men was a big race, I think this 5,000 will be something else. Looking at the kind of caliber, Faith coming in after breaking a world record. Remember, she hasn't run too many 5Ks, 5,000 meters on the track. When she broke the world record right here in Paris last year, it was her first 5,000 since 2015. So, it's very difficult for the opposition to know how she'll go. But at the Kenyan trials, again, running the fastest time on African soil, Good Aftegai, another tough athlete who took, Faith's world record, and of course, Beatrice Chebet. So you have them in that order.
I think will be the dark horse, yeah.
Exactly, the dark horse.
The Malkia strikers, they're done with their Olympics. They should be leaving the country the next 48 hours. But I think for them it is about learning. Bottom line, it's about learning. The game against Japan just gave us hope that there's something there, but it just needs to be refined.
Brazil was the toughest team in our pool, if I can say that, because it gave us a lot of problems on the defense, both net and backward defense, so we could not score much of the points.
Yes.
But going to Poland, we tried our best. We did score a lot on the Poland's defense, both net and backcourt, and the players played very well. And with that courage and that fearless when we approached Poland.
Let's go back to the game against Brazil, because it was an interesting one. I was in that particular game, and if the atmosphere was something else, because someone would say you're in Brazil, you'd think you're in Brazil because of the level of energy, the level of noise that was there.
Tukiingia pale kwa hall, tutarajia kupata supporters wa timu zote mbili, lakini kuenda kuangalia bendera za Brazil na yellow color za Brazil ndio zilikuwa zimejaa pale, na tukashtuka kidogo, but wachezaji wangu pia walishtuka kwa vile wengi ni wachanga kwa hii mechi za kiwango kama hiki. So utapata walishtuka kidogo, na mwanzo uliona tulianza vibaya, ndio tukaanza kupiki polepole, tukapata scores ambazo si kuwa mbaya sana, but mwanzo ilikuwa ni mbaya. Ndio naweza sema hivyo. Support ya Brazil, it was very amazing to the Brazilian team, and I think they gave them an edge over us.
And in terms of tactically, what do you think how are the Brazilians stronger?
Brazilians are very strong on their service and their back on the net defense. They are very good in net defense, both net and the backward defense. So that also gave us a challenge. How to make a score was very difficult for us, but we learned a lot from that game. Going forward, then we met the Poland's team. We had learned a lot from Brazil. We went to the training. Then we approached the Poland's match with a lot of knowledge, and that's why we had to score more, to do better, to do much better than what we did against the Brazilian team.
Your last game against Japan, it was a very close game.
Japan, the height-wise were almost the same height, so we gave ourselves courage. If these guys are short like us, why don't we just go like one-on-one and see what happens? So the guys were Jituma, Wakaenda, played well in the first set. First set, it was a challenge. They destroyed our movement and every attack on their tactical service. So we had to rearrange again. You remember I called timeout when the scores were around 5-0. So I had to call a timeout and rearrange my team.
For volleyball, reception is one of the most important technique because anything else cannot function without the reception. It's something we still need to put in the work and the effort. And of course, something we realize is that when you look at the technical bench for most of our opponents of those teams, you'll find they also have statisticians, and you'll find our bench has like 10 specialists or coaches or whatever. You'll find that our bench has only 3 or 4 people there. So I think that is also something that we really need to improve.
You know, for me, even when I was a player, it was always the reception. That was our main undoing. And also our services, they were a bit weak. And also just mental strength, because I think this is something that the girls were also lacking. So the 3 things. But for attack, the power, it was there.
Tukiingia kwa uwanja maybe we are 3 or 2 inside the field. Tuko na watoto wenye wanafaa lazima sasa, so sisi ndio tunawaongelesha that sisi wenye tunakaa experienced players. Tunawaongelesha ndio maybe they have that morale. Like unapata wengi they have not played with those professional players. Hiyo inakuja wana panic kidogo.
So for example, you're still in charge of Malkia Strikers. You're preparing for the next Olympics, for example. When should your preparations begin?
I think the preparation should start now. We should not be waiting when there is that, like when you're coming here, we have only trained for less than 2 months. When other teams started preparing, they were preparing for these Olympics 5 years before the Olympics. So we have to start now. We have to project now and see how can we train for the next Olympic 2028. It starts now.
We can even see at this level the technique that is being used there at the court, reffing, the court, the balls being used, things are changing so far. So for us also to be able to get to that level, we also need to get used to that level of technology back at home. And of course, just be able to have international exposure, because it takes so long for us to meet these teams. And we can't say we will take a year, train, come meet Brazil once, go back, take another year. We need to have lots of these international exposures, because we might be the best in Kenya, in Africa, but the level out here is also different and a bit high, you know. So we need to continually have exposure on the international stage. It will give us, or the team, they'll get used to meeting such opponents, they'll get used to this kind of level, and maybe that's what is going to make us do better and even be able to now compete and be able to bring the results. Yes. Okay.
But I think this story of learning is a bit tired, because I remember covering them first at the World Championships in, I believe it was '96 in Japan. It was the same story. We are learning. We had the coach Sadatoshi Sugawara at that time from Japan. A few players went to play in Japan for clubs like Hitachi Sawa, Hitachi, you know, the Hitachi clubs. And then again, recently we had the Brazilians coming on the technical bench. They were in Tokyo, you know, raised the game in terms of the technology they were using for training, kind of data they were keeping, and they were kicked out. We got our coaches again, and we are still talking about learning at the Olympic Games. I think something radical must be done, because we have the talent from the high school. I mean, all Cheptil, all those girls' schools that could dominate in East African volleyball. But then we come to the Olympics to learn. I think the federation should do better.
And also we need academies, because the biggest problem that we have, we don't have under 18 or under 12. It's not like my time where I started playing when I was 12. So I think for us to match these teams like Brazil or USA, we just need to have the under 12 or more academies. Yeah.
What about infrastructure? Because we still don't have enough indoor courts, and then you compete in major championships in indoor courts.
Yes, the biggest problem also is because we are doing outside volleyball, and our game is indoor volleyball, so we don't have, like, our league matches mostly we play outside. We only come to play indoors when we have an international match, which is like one time in a year.
Well, that marks the end of Bonjour. Thank you so much for watching from myself and Mr. Elias Makori outside the Stade de France, which is going to be quite busy this entire week because of the athletics program. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bonjour, brought to you by Safaricom, a proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.